This podcast is recorded on Aboriginal land. We pay our respects to elders past and present and recognise that sovereignty was never ceded.
Watch the magic happen.
Fucking hell. Welcome back to the Radical Elbow Leftist Pipeline Podcast. I'm Mitch Albanese.
I'm Tom Albanese.
I'm not saying his name. Disgusting. I'm Jordan.
Purple Albanese.
You are, Jordan, you are living in denial because we are all just in Albanese's world now. This is the reality of the situation. We are living in Albo's world.
Yeah.
A crushing cultural defeat. I think so. This is obviously so I want to state straight up. We're recording at 9:15 on the Thursday morning of 8th of May, and I think we need to put that timestamp in because sure as shit, once this comes out, things will be different. People are not conceding seats yet. We don't actually know what's happening with the fucking election still. But we know. We know the broad strokes for sure. Yeah. And that's why I don't want to pontificate too much on specific shit because who knows what will actually happen. But the broad strokes are in. And it was a crushing Maoist cultural win for Anthony Albanese.
It was.
And I think in impressively Labor style, they have managed to do something that has left both the left and right unhappy. They have managed to split the difference down the middle somehow, and with an historical election win, everyone else has gone, fucking hell.
It's amazing, isn't
it?
It's really like all of the unhappiness of the last term, condensed into a win. They come out looking victorious, but yet no one's anymore. Well, no one I really look at in my life, whether I like them or not, seems any happier than they were before.
It's also just a good metric, I think, that the worst cunts you know are the ones going, oh, he's upset the left and the right. I guess he's doing something right.
Oh, yeah, he's doing something right in that case. What is the virtue that you're talking about here? What specifically are you talking about? Yeah. Because my tastes and my preferences are quite different to that of the fucking, Pauline Hanson's One Nation. So what is it that you don't like?
Yeah, it's like I can't tell you apart. It's like, I just want everyone to have a roof over their heads. Meanwhile, it's like, I want all brown people to die. I can't tell you apart. Maybe there's a middle ground here.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same things here. Yeah.
I can't tell you apart. I guess.
Maybe, centrism.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake.
Mitch, I don't know what you think about this because I raised it in the chat the other day and I'm not sure where you stand on it, but I personally want to get to the bottom of, at some point, the enormous targeted campaign spending that the Advance Australia campaign did, hand in glove with attendant media outlets like Sky After Dark, which I accept that a lot of lefty electorates aren't exactly glued to, Sky After Dark.
Yeah.
But in conjunction with the very compelling, plain-speaking ad campaign, don't vote Greens, not this, or can't vote Greens, not this time. It was fucking everywhere. And there was huge, copious amounts of money, which we more recently found out a lot of it was contributed by mining companies, but it was very targeted to the electorates where, for example, Max's electorate up here, those ads fucking everywhere. And they look compelling to me. They don't look like they come from a party. They just look like it's like, oh, you know what? Because they also, they try to speak to left swing voters. They go, oh, you know what? You usually dabbled in a vote for them, but this time you need to be a bit more conservative. And I think in a climate where, and we probably need to talk about this separately, but, people are feeling more conservative. Well, a little bit less inclined to make change given all the wild aspect. Yeah, everyone talked about this with Trump and the terrorists. I mean, I think it worked against them. I think that they did a number on them. I think that is a factor.
I think that there's two sort of points that you hit on there that I think are different, and I want to try and remember to get to the second one. But in terms of the vote spend, a big thing that I am sort of looking at is this overall idea that basically online presence and ads and even just advertising and media really doesn't do much these days. So from everywhere from Abby Chatfield and the influencers on the Green side, the memes that Labor and Liberal were putting out, and then the ads from everywhere from Trumpet of Patriots to Advance Australia, doesn't seem to equate to too much of a change in the vote what seems to make a change in the votes is boots on the ground fucking campaigning. And the Greens' overall vote hasn't really changed that much, which you wouldn't expect with $20 million in targeted sort of seats. This problem that I'm going to keep coming back to it is that there is a difference between politics and electoralism. And I think this is the big sort of stumbling block. And this is the sort of the messages that were coming out from the Greens on election night of like, we've secured actually the highest vote in our history, which doesn't seem to be true now. But even if you did, it's like, that's okay. But we don't want to lose seats. We're doing electoralism, not politics. We're not just canvassing Australia to see who wants what. We're targeting seats in a specific way under our system. The other point of that you mentioned, though, Tom, is there seems to be a weird thing, and I've not seen an analysis yet, and I really want to see it. The political, known truth, quote unquote, is that populations veer crazily to the right wing when everything is unstable internationally. That just seems to be this known truth.
Yeah, right-wingers favour scarcity crises. Yeah.
And we all know how right-wing Labor is. But in the general imagination of the Australian population, Labor are the nominally left-wing party. That's the aesthetic that they have. Same thing in Canada. There was a conservative option and they went for the more left-wing centrist party. And I just think it's interesting that Australia didn't lurch to arguably their most strongman type of option that we've had in a very long time in Peter Dutton. Australia just went, no, we want stability and we don't want right-wing stability. We don't want strongman stability. We just want the safe, normal option that we already know in Albanese. So I think there is this weird bucking of the trend there where, like, if everything's going to shit, people don't necessarily just run to, fascist dictators and hollow right-wing ideology and bullshit talking points. There is still a bit more nuance to that. I've not seen any proper analysis on that yet. I want to continue to come back to that in the next few, months and years. But I think it's interesting that we didn't just go, fuck, everything's going to hell. Let's go to Dutton.
Oh, I was just going to talk about the advertising stuff. I think I slightly disagree, at least for us, because like people hadn't heard about us last election. So advertising would have been a benefit for us. Although we did start to see, people say when being door knocked, oh yeah, I have heard of you for the first time, which is kind of cool. But that's something like we saw for our upper house vote. What was it? So we ran in 11 seats in the last federal election. We ran in 4 this year. We tripled our upper house vote, even though we ran in less lower house seats. So like boots on the ground stuff, like our upper house vote was obviously much better in the seats that we ran in the lower house. But the boots on the ground stuff does have an impact. But like to get a 2%, like or 1.8 or 1.9% fucking vote across the state without boots on the ground, that is advertising. Like that is purely advertising. So, but
it came from, like you said, the seats where you were like doing stuff. Like even though it's across the state, the impact came from targeting seats and again like boots on the ground stuff. Like do you know what the Vic Socialist upper house vote was like in Shepparton?
Yeah, it's around like 1.8. Like
so everywhere it is increased.
Yeah.
And so is it still below like Shooters and Fishers and Family First, like the real established Senate seats that everyone knows about?
I haven't compared them to we're doing a fair bit better than Shooters, Fishers, and Farmers.
You are, yeah. First,
I still feel like if you had advertising without boots on the ground, which I saw from other major parties. Like if your focus was on let's go viral, then I don't think it would have been nearly as good.
No, exactly. But also like we've also got to remember like the those parties have ins to the media. They can use the media, like especially the Greens as well because they're a bit controversial. So they have like traditional media. Like The Age literally put an editorial direction out to their journalists. No, we won't do anything from Jordan Vandenlam. Like that was that's their editorial direction.
When did that happen? Was that recently? Like, what kind of coverage would they not do? Or they would
anything,
not put out
literally anything
by
at
you
all,
or about you,
about me, or any byline from me, or anything at all, because of my position on the CFMEU. So they wouldn't do a housing story because I said that the CFMEU shouldn't have been put into administration. They wouldn't do any Victorian socialist story because I said the CFMEU shouldn't be put into administration. So they have a...
It's incredible ideological agenda, isn't it? Anti-left agenda, I think.
100%. Yeah. So that and that's what we're experiencing. The Greens absolutely not experiencing that kind of stuff. Labor, obviously not. The Liberals, obviously not. Even the fucking, I don't know, I don't even know any other examples. But yeah, they have, the ins to the traditional media establishment. They can talk about that stuff. And so we, like parties like us, have to compete outside of those spheres, particularly when they're so egregiously biased to us. And then when the other traditional people write stories about us, it's about how, we're a disgrace or something insane like that. And we have to work with that. And that's good for us because it's like, I fight Tories, Albanese. Like, fuck, you can't.
I know. I always, whenever I see any reference to I like fighting Tories, I think of that photo of him sitting next to, was it Joyce from Qantas? The old Qantas, just yucking it up with him at some conference. Like, wow. I was like, fuck up, cunt.
Yeah,
like,
shut the absolute fuck up. You are a piece of shit.
What I'm doing is fighting. You just haven't read Machiavelli.
Yeah, you're just not pragmatic. Actually, sometimes you got to suck their nuts first, and then you can fight them. Like, fuck off.
They don't see you coming. They don't see you coming. You're there. You're there shining their shoe. The bosses are coming under Albanese.
Oh my God, like piece of shit. And then his first speech, like he used it to attack the Greens. And it's like, who's the enemy? Who's the enemy here?
Before we go any further, one thing I want to talk about, and this is almost getting into petty interpersonal bullshit, right? But Anthony Albanese must be one of the most miserable leaders anywhere in the world I've ever fucking seen. 2 elections in a row, he has told his enthusiastic and happy crowd to shut the fuck up while he's speaking. like the election just gone, everyone's going, Albo, Albo, Albo. And there's like a genuine vibe. And he goes, all right, I think people know the name.
School marming him and shit. Yeah. Relax, man. What a fucking wet blanket.
Right. It's just this like, and then like someone said something about, like someone in the crowd shouted out about Dutton and was like making some sort of jab at him. And he went, no. In this country, we treat people with respect. And if there was ever a public figure less worthy of fucking respect than Peter Dutton, it's probably Kyle Sandilands, whose wedding this cunt goes to. But like, just a miserable...
He gave you some respect, didn't he, Jordan? Like, you got treated with respect at the campaign,
respect to the right, obviously. Respect to our friends.
I think he was nastier about you than he ever was about Peter Dutton.
Oh, yeah, you heard him talk, like, blow smoke up Peter Dutton's ass every fucking opportunity. He's like, oh, I respect him, I respect his family, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, shut
Why don't you go and give him a smooch, you fucking loser?
Yeah. Anthony Albanese has just been elected with a historical majority in a crushing election. It was ridiculous how well his party has done, right? And he spent the week afterwards laying the boot in on Max Chandler Mather, going, well, maybe he needs a mirror because he's actually pretty disgraceful himself as well. And before the election, going in on Jordan Vanderlam for Victorian Social. That man is a disgrace. We'd have no time for him. While, again, rubbing the nuts of Peter Dutton, being like, you know what, we might disagree on some things, but he's a good
guy. Just the posture is that you have to perform civility towards the right in order for everyone to see how. But to the left, you have to suppress in order for everyone to see the same thing, how civil you are, because the position is that all of us on the far left, or whatever you want to call it, we're all rabble, we're all just... we must be made to look suppressed so that they don't get tarnished with our image. It's the same posture that they've had to adopt for decades with respect to the union movement. Culminating in some of the CFMEU stuff. But that's been decades in the making. That's been happening since Hawke. You've got to show everyone, no, we're not in bed with the unions. No, we're not in bed with the far left. No, we're not the same as the Greens. That's what they've got to show everyone because they're constantly pandering to that liberal base.
But it comes from student politics, and you can see it. You can see it like these people have never had a real fucking job in their life.
Hey, Albo worked at a bank for a little bit.
Every man. did uni, did student politics, then got a fucking union bureaucrat job, and then blah 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 blah. Now the Labor Party, you can see it like for someone from student politics who still has that student politics brain, who cannot resist an opportunity to talk shit about a trot, like a literal trot. Still, as Prime Minister, cannot miss the opportunity to talk shit. But also, you can see it in Max Chandler-Mather. Max Chandler-Mather did it too at the National Union of Students Convention. Was invited and used the opportunity to talk shit about the trots because he was also Labor left stew poll brain. And it's like this is the class of people that we have in politics, and they're just fucking useless.
There is this sort of thing that I think and when I say we, I sort of mean leftists overall, especially if we get into like, center, left, progressive, whatever. And again, like the difference between politics and electoralism. And so many people think that everything that we do leads up to the election day. And then that's like the big moment, and then we reset, right?
Yeah, and that's your big wins and defeats and stuff like that. Yeah.
And that's the wrong mode to be thinking about.
Absolutely,
this shit.
It is.
Massive things happen before and after election day that change politics in the country. But when you're talking about, electoralism, then you get these student politics fuckwits having their jabs and doing their little like interscene fighting and forming coalitions inside their own party and all that sort of shit. And then you've got the march to election day and the received wisdom on what works and what doesn't. And you end up with shit where like Labor just has calcified themselves as a center-right party. The Liberals, arguably part of what has like led to their fucking collapse is that electoral student politics brain combined with culture war shit that they just could not get out of because they were like, but this is the way to do it. And it's like, no, Australia clearly doesn't like that shit. They don't like what you're doing. They don't like who you are as people, but they can't break out of that mold. And then you're starting to see it now, arguably with the Greens and that sort of that I wouldn't say rush, but it's sort of like a definite few hurried steps to the center when they thought minority government was like a definite chance and starting to sort of,
moderate.
So this is that other thing. So
you mean over the AUKUS policy and that kind of thing.
So this is a fucking big one I want to come back to, right? Okay. So just on the advertising real quick again, in terms of the upper house, I feel like that again is good sort of for like left-wing politics, broadly speaking. That seems to have worked and bucked the lower house trend of losing sort of green seats. But I want more sort of analysis on, again, how little online presence did, because we all saw Adam Bant doing DJ sets up and down the coast, and his seat, he's probably fucking lost it. It looks definite like he's lost it.
I still think that was cool. I think that was
so. This is the thing.
That's fine.
It was cool. Yeah. But again, we're talking about electoral politics, and we now have pretty good proof that doesn't work in his seat, and you need seats. So for politics, and there's the thing as well, for politics, it could have worked well, except now we have the political reality of this demoralizing defeat. And this is, again, the problem with linking everything to electoralism, is that we go, we're feeling really good. And then Max and Adam lose their seats. Stephen Bates loses their seats as well. Yeah. And then we go, oh, fuck. Something that we've sort of talked about a little bit, Jordan, but this idea that the Greens ended up campaigning on vote one Greens, make Labor act, keep Dutton out.
Yeah, it's pathetic. Yeah.
And I want to stress a point, and I feel like this is something that Hong did in Fraser. I'm going to keep coming back to her because her campaign was bullshit and it is bucked national trends and she's done so fucking well. Campaign on something.
Yeah, give us a positive fucking vision.
If you say, vote for me and I'll get Labor to act, why wouldn't anyone just go, oh, I'll vote for Labor then?
Yeah, exactly. Why don't you just join Labor?
I can do that. I can make Labor act by giving them my vote and that keeps Dutton out. What were the Greens for? And I've seen so many people sort of say like, oh, I think dental into Medicare. And that's sort of it. So Tom, looping back now, fucking 48 minutes later from something that you mentioned before. One thing that has bewildered me this entire fucking election, and especially now afterwards, is that this seems like in no small part a referendum on the idea of being tied to America and Trump particularly, right? Dutton was rolling out all of the Trump talking points, saying that he's, it's a good man, blah, 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 sort of tying it there. realizing too late that was a fuck up. They tried to change course, and then Jacinta Price was like, let's make Australia great again, and fucked up again to the point where they mentioned that on election night, right?
Yeah, he definitely lost the election. Like, there's no doubt that Dutton lost his election campaign.
Yes.
And I think it was for a minute there early on, possibly his to win. He lost hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, Labor were in no way talking about fucking up AUKUS. The Greens were.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Greens were like, we should get rid of AUKUS, we should tear up AUKUS, Trump is bad, America is bad, let's tear up AUKUS, and let's give $4 billion to the defense industry and let's make onshore missiles. And for some fucking reason, and I think it's because of their proposal for the military spending, they did not mention that towards the end of the campaign at all. And I have no idea why the Greens didn't put forward their position as Labor and Liberal are the same. You don't mention Labor and Liberal, but you position them as the government. They're the same. We should get rid of AUKUS. The Greens will get us out of AUKUS. Try and tie Labor to AUKUS in an election where no one wants Trump. What the fuck were you doing? Get Labor to act. No, fuck that.
Yeah.
Go hard.
I think that, but so like speaking to Greens members, the like, you know, they went hard on Labor in Queensland at the most recent election, and it didn't work. So the strategy was, well, we'll see if going softer on Labor will work. Obviously, that didn't work either.
Nope.
So like that's why they didn't go hard on Labor, which I think is a coward move. But like, didn't work.
So I mean, I've been saying this for a very long time, and Tom, you sort of mentioned it as well. With like, you know, it was the Liberal lost this election. That's the big thing, to the point where if the Liberal Party had a better campaign, arguably more Greens would be in, which is insane. They were so bad.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
which is fucking insane.
I'm glad that it was a decisive rejection of some of the
that is something
right-wing lobby group fuel culture war campaigns, particularly anti-Indigenous, you know, black bashing campaigns like this Welcome to Country bullshit, you know, that I've seen coming out of fucking Rowan Dean's mouth for years, or just Jacinta Price's mouth. Yeah, I've seen it here and there, but you can go on Google Trends and find out when it began, and it was when the money started coming in immediately post-referendum, because someone saw that there would be some hoped. These groups like Advance Australia hoped that there would be some political capital to be gained out of it, and they were wrong.
Yeah,
they were wrong.
But they still did what they needed to do. Like, they even got Albanese to be like, maybe we should only have Welcome to Countries at the big ones.
He's a fucking leper for that. I can't believe that maggot to turn on that dime.
Like, they won. They did win that. Like, not to the extent that they wanted to, but like, Labor conceded to the fucking very far right, to the literal Nazis. And that.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what? I don't like their politics on immigrants, but maybe they bring up some good points. What are you talking about, cunt?
Maybe they've got some things we should listen to. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
Is there any principle that this man will adhere to? That, you know, that he used to
pragmatism. Like selling out. That's the principle that he will adhere to till he's on fucking death's door.
It's a beautiful day here in Cologne, but I'm feeling a bit under the weather, so it gave me a bit of an opportunity to jump online and give my 2 cents worth in the wash-up to this election. For those of you who have been listening to us throughout, you probably noticed that my view on where the election was going, or what the result would ultimately be, changed several times over the course of several months. The only thing that didn't change, in fact, was my view that this was an uninspiring election, that it was horrible, that it was boring, and that I just did not have an awful lot of passion for it. But yeah, my view changed when it came to what the outcome would be. And it changed straight up from we were looking at a change of government 2 months ago to a Labor minority government a month ago, which, if folks will remember, I was actually mildly excited by. About a week and a half ago, I called it that it would be a Labor return but with a couple of upsets in the bag. And certainly I think that I called it pretty spot on, though what I did not get spot on in the mix was that it would be a Labor return with an increased majority and some swings that I felt were just so undeserved and so horrendously huge. The upsets, well, I'm actually not going to claim that Dutton losing his seat is one of the upsets. To be honest, if the coalition were going to lose the government in this election, Dutton losing his seat was something that I saw pretty much as an inevitability. And that is due to the fact that the dude had been on a knife-edge seat, or has been for the entire time that he's been in Parliament. He's the leader, and if the coalition weren't going to go up, then there was a good chance he wasn't going to get up as well. But more on Dutton in a second. Perhaps my biggest upset was seeing Adam Bant lose his seat, and I just wanted to acknowledge Bant. I've liked having him in Parliament for a very long time. I think he's been quite a necessary part of the lower house. And he was a support to me when I got the silly idea to run as a candidate myself that one time. So to Adam, I'm absolutely certain you're listening to this, but just wanted to acknowledge what has been a long, pretty admirable career in that horrific House of Representatives. I was also a bit sad to see Max Chandler Mather go. I've enjoyed his short time in Parliament, mainly because I have seen him take up the challenge, show a bit of staunchness on the floor, particularly when it came to renters' rights, when it came to Gaza, and certain other topics where I found his ability to be quite outspoken inspirational, for want of a better term. But I'm not a fan of a Labor government with an increased majority now holding power in that Parliament. I am a bit concerned about the lack of left-wing challenge on the crossbench. No, I don't believe that the Teals are going to be a massive challenge on the crossbench, and I'm not necessarily a fan of the Teals. Even if, I have seen it told to me several times I'm supposed to be because it's women in Parliament. I don't believe that the Teals will offer much of a challenge. But my concern with Labor is that their party room dynamics always rule out, as we saw play out, particularly in the case of Fatima Payman. Where there's no challenge to them from the left, the dynamic will be reinforced that their goal will be to retain power. It will not be to represent the constituents. And unless we do have that challenge from the left coming at them on the floor in both chambers of Parliament, we're less likely to see them being representative of the people and more likely to see them being representative of maintaining that power and keeping certain lobby groups happy. The Dutton that I did want to return to was the speeches on the night. I was actually incredibly shocked by Dutton's concession speech, I've got to say, because, to be honest, that's the first time I have seen that bloke exude any measure of humanity and humility, and I cannot help but think that him losing the election and losing his seat on the one night probably did expose a bit of that action going on. It did make me wonder what potentially could have happened, whether my prediction of 2 months ago with a coalition victory would have came true if we would have seen a fair bit more humanity at play rather than whatever the chaotic, inhumane nonsense it was that they were trying to draw on. And in particular, Dutton flip-flopping like a dying carp when it came to the acknowledgement of country at Anzac Day was a good example of the lack of principle and the lack of position that was actually governing. They were really trying to go for the Trumpist right-wing populist goals. But as America started to crash and burn, Australian voters got less and less interested in that. And I feel like the Liberal Party or the coalition more broadly failed to turn it around and give anything really robust, which is why we saw the election play out the way it did. But Dutton and humanity, who knew? I saw him actually be reasonably gracious in defeat and found his speech to be quite open, and it did make me wonder what else could have been the case had there been a moral compass in the coalition at play at all. Albanese's speech, on the other hand, in also rather surprising news, managed to just piss me off. Where to start with this one? I think I need to start with the acknowledgement of country, because where I'm seeing an acknowledgement of country being wielded, and it's not because it's the right thing to do, and it's not because you're living and operating on lands that predate Australia by several centuries, and so Albo clearly just demonstrated later on in his speech when he kept on drawing on Australians as over and over again. I'm going to go back to that point actually, but he wielded the acknowledgement of country. It wasn't just given; it was used to highlight his very, very progressive point of difference from the coalition and from scaremongers that exist within the One Nation Party and the Trumpeter Patriots, both of whom have been using the sheer inconvenience of having to sit through an inclusive, educative gesture like a welcome or an acknowledgement of country prior to doing stuff. Both of them playing off Australian ignorance in order to hopefully score themselves some votes along the way. And I'm sure it worked for them for certain parts of the community, but when it came to Albo's own acknowledgement, it just grated my cheese. The other thing that really pissed me off about Albo's speech, apart from it being far too long, was that it descended really, really quickly into some rank nationalist talking points, which Labor seem to be really prone to doing. And I don't know why they still do this in 2025. I don't like sentiments of we're all Australians, particularly when you're going to make a performance out of acknowledgements of country before you do them. But yeah, for mine, this talk about our diversity and how we're all together and we're all in this together and we're all Australian families, Australian this, Australian that, that drawing on rank nationalism. For some, I'm sure they love it. For me, it both erases Indigenous sovereignty, particularly at a time where we had to, we're still grappling with the fallout of the referendum 18 months down the track, and not only how toxic that campaign was, but how also the Labor Party have pretty much failed to have any other direction when it comes to Indigenous everything. That plus the Labor Party and their long history of being supporters of the White Australia Party, and indeed the Labor movement more general. Every time I see that stuff, it makes me cringe. And I do wish that in 2025, if you're going to look at inclusive terminology and you're going to talk about ways to collaborate and move forward, that you don't descend into the building of rank nationalism in order to do this, to reinforce this point. You know, I have my concerns about the Labor Party. I have my disappointments. I would have loved to have seen a lot more seats move marginal. That didn't happen. I'm not looking forward to the next 3 years, but I guess when it all comes out in the wash, what we as a left need to do is to make sure we maintain the pressure from outside of the electoral system. More actions, more challenges, more boycotts, more robust writing, alternative media sources, and everything else, because a Labor government that is trying to maintain power is going to give us an awful lot to be fighting back against and to be writing about and talking about and educating on. So what are a couple of predictions that I've got? Well, in the last 24 or so hours, news has come through with regards to Jacinta Price deciding that she's going to sit in the Liberal Party, Liberal Party party room. Oh my goodness. Rather than the National Party's room, which is where the Country Liberal Party traditionally sit as the initial country party. I don't find that remotely shocking. If I was to predict what all this means, I would state quite plainly that Jacinta Price is looking to increase her power, and is therefore aligning with the bigger part of what the coalition is. And let me be clear, I'm a big fan of using the term coalition rather than LMP, because what we are really talking about are a massive mishmash of conservative parties. Some of them are an LNP party. Some of them are just nationals or just Liberal parties due to the mechanics that happen within the various state iterations of both of them. And some of them are the country Liberals. Country Liberal have always or traditionally have sat with the National Party room. Jacinta's moving in because she is looking at increasing her power within the coalition opposition. I would guarantee, as has already been expressed by expressed by media surrounding his bid for leadership now that Dutton's gone. Jacinta is likely to be looking at deputy leadership at this point in time, but I guarantee that come next election, what we will most likely see is that rather than electing to run for the Senate again, and remembering that territory senators only do a 3-year term, so she will be up for election again in 2028. Rather than running for the Senate again, I think that she will make a bid for Lingyari like she did many elections ago now, and will likely be eyeing off eventually the coalition leadership. So in my view, what we're seeing there is a power move more than anything else. Apart from that, I can't say that I have an awful lot of other predictions. I just have a lot of concerns, and I'm sure that my colleagues, my dearly departed colleagues, are saying much the same thing in their own recording as we speak. But if I was to offer any advice for people in this term of government, I think that we need to ensure that we are protecting the right to protest, that we are protecting the right to dissent, and we are continuing to keep leftward pressure on the government from outside of the system, because truly, at this point in time, there won't be an awful lot of challenge. All right. Cheers.
That's another thing for me. This is a weird thing. I was thinking about like 15 years ago, I would have been fucking stoked on this election. Like looking at Dutton lost his seat, Labor in and a crushing majority. The Greens lost some, and that's a bit of a shame. But listen to all the things Albo says he wants to do. And like, regardless of the fact that Rudd said a lot of shit that he wanted to do and didn't fucking do any of it. And then Gillard was forced to do some small things because of the Greens and still was fucking shithouse. Then we had, utter chaos for however long. Just the last election, the last fucking 3 years of Albo, like putting forward the voice and then just smoke bombing and leaving it to die, making sure the voice didn't get up. All of the extra shit, the housing fund, environmentalism, coal exports, all of that shit being undermined by himself, overruling other party members, not doing anything principled whatsoever when it comes to the Palestinian genocide, all of that shit.
Yes.
To then watch this milky boneless man stand up on election night and be like, we're going to do all of these great things. I am so worried about climate change and we're going to fix it. We're going to give everyone a home. We're going to make sure Aboriginal Australians are treated right in this country. It's like, but we just watched you not do any of that. Why the fuck would I believe you at all?
You're not going to do any of it. We have hard data that you won't do anything, you fucking blobfish cunt. He won't do anything. He'll sit there for another few years. Shameful, isn't it?
The fact that I'm now at a point in my radicalization where I just go, oh, he lied last time, he's lying this time. And that puts me on the far fringes of election politics because so many people are like, oh, but did you hear? It's the Building Future Australia Secure Building Manufacturing Fund. It's going to be really good. It's like, you are a fucking rube. You are a fucking idiot if you listen to that cunt and you go, you know what, I'm looking forward to the next 3 years. I think it'll be pretty positive. Based on what?
Yeah.
A lot of us are feeling really fucking bleak. Like my bleakness of having watched our complicity in the Gaza genocide for years. And I'm the lifelong anti-Zionist. I was just talking to Clem Ford about this yesterday in the messages, actually. I'm a lifelong anti-Zionist. So that bleakness and then having gone through uni and read Chomsky's writing, learned about manufacturing consent, that actual bleakness helps to inform my whole view of international politics. And I think that in turn sort of informed why I stayed very local in my anti-racism when I was sort of really participating in that, boots on ground and that kind of thing. I was like, because I think my worldview has always been out a huge shade of like, oh, global power just works to fucking murder brown people. You know what I mean? That's what that does. You know what I mean? So that the rich can maintain their fucking, their colonies and their enclaves around the world, even in the democratic enclave in the Middle East, the only democratic state in the Middle East. That's my worldview. And then we had to watch all those chickens come home to roost in the most bloody way imaginable for the past few years. So this wellspring of bleakness is fucking coming out of me. And that's not to say anything about the cost of living here, about the scarcity climate that's coming up that's favouring fascists, both the ones that wear suits and the ones that wear face masks. I've had to watch all that happen and I feel so fucking bleak. And like you said, Mitch, I came into this election campaign, I was never excited, I get some kind of like tooth grinding kind of happiness / malice when I see the people that I really hate lose their job. You know what I mean? At the end of it, but nothing makes me happy about this. I'm so fucking bitter, man. Yeah. But bleakness is there. It's a hard campaign to find to wring anything good out of. Actually, I should say though, Jordan, we've been talking a lot about stuff, but like you ran a campaign, and I'm really impressed at the way you guys ran yours. Like,
Thanks, Tom.
How are you going? How are you doing?
I'm exhausted. I'm fucking
Yeah.
But like, it was just great. It was like, fucking, let's go on a random Wednesday night doing a forum about socialism in Ringwood and having 20, non-members show up to talk about socialism. Yeah. Like,
how cool
when
does
that happened in the last like living memory?
My whole thing is like the bleakness for me manifests as anger, and anger has always been something that's motivating for me. I'm a fucking vocalist in a metal band. I've lived off anger and spite forever. I am academically accomplished because someone in my first year of uni said I wouldn't be. That's the only reason I'm doing a PhD. Literally, I fucking hate that cunt, and I will prove it. I am fired up by that shit. I shout a lot. That's what I do. and this is the thing too, with like, and that's like what your campaign was and why it was so fucking cool amongst all this sort of bleakness, is that like, some shit seems really bad and what's happening. But you can get 20 non-member people to a Ringwood socialist gathering on a fucking Wednesday night. There is shit there still to do. Hong's campaign in Fraser was, I'm gonna talk about it forever, I think. So invigorating because she's from the community, she's in the community, she's working, and the volunteers are fired up, and they were effective. They didn't win the seat, so they lost overall.
Oh, but they came pretty close.
That's the thing, is that you can still do electoralism and you can do it well. This is something I wanted to ask you, Pingers, given your position, like with Victorian socialists and whatnot. But there is this other point that I'm mulling over, I'm thinking about, I want to see the analysis on, is that there did seem to be cut through with the media and the two major parties talking about the Greens being obstructionist. Big thing over the housing, right? I heard it anecdotally, you can see it in the polls, that the bullshit that the Greens just needed to rubber stamp Labor proposals and they're holding up progress and they shouldn't hold up progress, that's not what they're there for, it had cut through. But I do not want, in any way, shape, or form, the Greens to compromise their political electoral position if they are in power. I do not want them to rubber stamp Labor proposals just to get votes next election, to not appear to be.
That. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is the thing. I don't know what the Greens need to do in terms of messaging and going up against the mainstream media and the huge reach that the major parties do. But that's something that they need to fucking figure out. There was cut through against them. They were known as obstructionist. People voted against them. However, you need to obstruct and you need to push and not compromise on fucking everything. So that is a problem coming into the next election. I personally feel, now this is just me as a radical lefty, that maybe holding to your fucking principles and going really hard on them no matter what will lose you, maybe let's say 7 out of 10 voters. But the 3 voters you maintain will be voters for fucking life if you do it well enough, if you stand on your convictions and you authentically argue your case and you go, you know what? I do not care about the media lying or whatever else because I believe this to be right. Because you will not get that from Albo and Dutton, Labor, and they will never do anything on fucking principle.
No.
So my hope for the Greens is, one lesson they take away from this is we need to know how to stand on our principles and weather the storm, not just go, oh, fuck, what we need to do is actually just compromise the Labor all the time and make sure we get votes next election.
Exactly. Like 100%. Like the thing is, like, if you're going to be obstructionist, which I think is a good thing because it was principled obstruction to ship bills, that's fantastic. You should always do that. Don't capitulate at the end. Don't do that. That's stupid. Like, what's the point of the obstruct? Because then you're going to have capitulated anyways, and then you're going to get all the criticisms for being obstructionist as well. Exactly. So, like, that's stupid. That's just a stupid strategic decision that the Greens made. But then we've also seen them be in, a minority government, forming minority government with Labor, and then just literally doing the exact opposite and rubber stamping shit bills from the Labor Party and not providing any obstruction to them because, they got an agreement that they'd appear on like leaders' debates in the future, which they didn't. So like fucking that was your concession that you made for that. Excellent. And sorry. And then dental into Medicare for children as well. That's good. That's lovely. And then just some horrific shit as well that they rubber stamp.
And that's the thing too of like, you get into politics to sort of do what? And it's like, it's again, incrementalism versus obstructionism.
Yeah, but it's not so like, okay, so if you're going to do that, if that's your strategy, like to be obstructionist and whatever, then unless you have a movement that you're building outside of Parliament that can fight for the rest of the things, then what's the point? Like literally, what is the point?
Yeah, you need the base outside
exactly
that shows the people inside that the pressure is there and that they can't actually go against this small party that wants to do it.
We'll get the rest of this whether you like it or not. Yeah. But like, no, you could, like, they're obviously not doing that, and I think they have the potential to. I absolutely think they have the potential to.
Yeah.
We just we'll see them probably. I don't know. What do you reckon the lesson for the Greens is from this election? What do you reckon they'll take? Do you reckon they'll take the wrong lesson here? Like the Liberals will, and the Labor Party fucking will.
Fuck, just quickly, watching the Liberal Party give a headline to Gina Reinhardt saying, we need to go more right-wing and Trumpian. Please, please do it, you fucking idiots.
Yeah,
please. That's why I'm a little bit sad to say goodbye to Dutton, because looking at it, and hindsight being 2020, because he looked a little bit like, he was getting like a bit ascendant. It looked at less than media made him look like that for a little while. But on his way out, I have to say, I wish they kept him for a while longer, because he's such a great person to have in the main role.
Just hung him up. Dragged him around.
Particularly when he started flip-flopping and not answering media questions. I'm like, mate, you're a jellyfish, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible seeing this guy that was being shaped up. All the bloody playing him up like Voldemort and that kind of thing. I think he just have the physical similarities. But, amping him up essentially.
Yeah.
Well, he just didn't meet his own expectations. He didn't meet any of the expectations. He's a bad villain.
Yeah, which is great, which is so good.
You want your enemies to have him there. Yeah. You want your enemies to be like that.
Before I get back to the Greens and answer that question, Jordan, there is something to take away as a positive from this, is that Peter Dutton ran for federal parliament when he was 19 years old. He went and became a cop on the recommendation of a Howard-era minister who said you need to have a job first. People won't vote for just a politician. You need something on the books. He then spent time as a Queensland police officer, always focused on getting back to politics.
He was a property developer before he was a cop as well.
He was a cop first. He had property and was building his portfolio as a cop. Then he left the police force and just was doing property development, the childcare shit. Yeah,
he's definitely a property developer for far longer than he was a cop.
100%. He was cosplaying as a cop. He just went and got the job, right?
Yeah.
He did all of that with an eye to someday being prime minister. It's all he's ever wanted. He has only ever wanted to be prime minister, and the first chance he gets, he fucks it so badly. His party is almost existentially wiped out, and he holds the record now of being the only opposition leader to lose his seat in an election, at least since World War II. That is so fucking delicious that he was so beautiful. Bad. And there's some bleakness in this, but at the very least, there is this one sort of the cliched victory over evil, where just he has been a miserable, cretinous cunt his entire fucking life. His political career, when he skipped the fucking apology.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
When he said that women that were sexually assaulted and raped on these immigration centers were having it on, trying to get to the mainland.
How evil he was. Yeah.
He tried, everything that he's done at every point in his political career has been not just to serve his own ends, but it's because I think he is tickled by suffering of others, right? I feel like maybe he fucking enjoys it. So for him to not get what he wants and to be one of the worst performers ever is so fucking good. Fuck off forever. Now the Greens. I am still a little bit worried that maybe the Greens will take the wrong lesson from this, but with Adam Bant probably losing his seat, Max Stephen Bates losing their seat, Samantha Ratnam not getting up, there is a chance that, and you hinted at it before, Tom, when you were talking about the people that I worked with, the good people as functionaries in the Greens. I was doing a lot of work with Greens groups as well as actual paid employment with the Greens for a while. And the new blood that are in the Greens are so fucking good. Their politics are just so on point. They're such good fucking organizers and activists, and they want real positive fucking change in this country, and they have pretty good ideas on how to get it. If Adam Bant kept his seat and maybe like Max and Steven lost theirs, but Samantha Ratnam gets up and not much changes, I think there would have been a much better chance that the Greens sort of stagnate and don't have a huge reevaluation. But I think with this disastrous result, there is a good chance that a lot of the rank and file Greens and those in like smaller organizing, behind the scene organizing groups will take the right lessons from it, will look to people like Hong and say, how did you do that? Why was it so good? And as bleak as it is now for the Greens, I'm pretty confident that the Greens party that comes out of this will be impressive. Now, we still have a problem with the New South Wales Greens. They're higher ups there. There is something weird going on with New South Wales Greens. I'm not exactly sure why, but we've got landlords and weapons manufacturers fucking ruling the roost there. So that's going to require some fucking force. But Queensland Greens especially are fucking staunch.
Oh, they're my favorite Greens. Yeah.
I don't know if you saw as well, but a bunch of them took a day off campaigning to barricade themselves in front of a fucking rental when the person in that rental, the disabled person in that rental, was going to be evicted by fucking cops. They chained themselves to the house. They stood in front of the cops and it worked. They didn't evict the person that day. And that's the type of shit that the Greens need.
Yeah, their energy was incredible in this campaign too. Really, really was. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think. Yeah, obviously, it's obviously lessons to learn about electoralism and targeting, and maybe there's lessons to learn about the orchestrated campaign of lots of people and lobby groups against them too, to learn how to fight it better. But I don't think culturally for the Queensland Greens there's anything to change. In fact, you know what I mean? Like I think they're fucking amazing. I think they're amazing. Yeah.
So this is something that I've been talking about for fucking years now, genuinely for years, is that especially after the Victorian election and the last federal election, the Greens won on the preferences from the major parties. The major parties were fighting themselves, and I've been warning anyone that I could for the last however many years that they will not do that again. They will, in a sense, team up, and in teaming up, they can still present themselves as fighting each other. But they wanted to keep the Greens out. You saw that in their how to vote cards, preference deals, all that sort of shit, right?
Yeah.
They wanted to keep the Greens out, so they teamed up together to do so. Electorally, that's a sort of problem. But as you've said repeatedly, Pingers, as we've all talked about, build up the power base outside of Parliament. Don't fucking worry about the campaign as just a discrete campaign. Don't worry about the electoral votes that you will get. Worry about your fucking community. Do good for your community and people will then vote for you. And you know what? If they don't, you've still done good for your community. You've still planted seeds that, maybe Labor Party should be doing this. Maybe we can demand better. Build the base outside of Parliament first. Become not a political party, but a political force that has a party.
Well, that's what Pingers did. That's what you did. And, so you've often said, you've said it on this pod, you've said it in many interviews elsewhere, Pingers, that the process was not, it doesn't begin and end with the election campaign. You know what I mean? It's about building people that will then continue to fight and your boots on ground sense afterwards. But do you have a little brain? I mean, surely you need time to have a breather. I'm sorry, I kind of asked you how you were feeling before and then we just got into other stuff. How are you doing? Tell me how you doing and tell me what did you do on the day after the election? If you can say, maybe.
Yeah.
But, if you want to go into it. And are you having a little break? What's your plans in that respect?
So I got out of bed probably 3 p.m. the day after, which was fucking
good.
great.
Was there a bit of that? We talked about lying face down on it.
Yeah, there was a lot of that.
It was lying face down. Yeah, good.
I think I woke up at like 12, checked my phone, and just was like, nah, not doing this for a bit.
No
Give me
way.
a sec.
Yeah,
and then just like went to bed. Sarah got me breakfast, which was fucking amazing.
Thanks, Sarah.
And I got to spend some time with Sarah for the first time in a very long time, which is something that I've
hello, loved ones.
A lot. Yeah, thank you, my wife. It's fucking nice to see you.
Do you remember me?
Yeah. And then, we're still doing stuff. We're still doing our debriefs and everything.
Yeah.
I want to take a break, but yesterday I was making videos about the Queens Gold Coast City Council's evicting fucking homeless people and all that kind of stuff. So doing that's not ever going to stop, but that wouldn't stop whether I was doing an election or not. I want to take some time off work, I reckon. But there's some things coming up that I unfortunately can't talk about on this podcast just yet. But next week probably we'll be able to. But yeah, there's some things on the horizon, definitely.
Nice
but
one.
I also want to rest.
Yeah, you need rest. You need
You
rest.
And that's a huge thing as well of like, and this is a problem that I've seen in the Greens a bunch is burnout. When you just like people sort of go like, I personally have to keep going. And that is one thing I will say about the Greens that is, a positive above and beyond a bunch of other smaller places is like the Greens will keep going if you take a week off. Don't worry about it. It's not the four of you running a thing.
Exactly.
Like, if two of us have a week off, the podcast isn't coming out that week because like we're probably not going to do two people. We'll just give it a break. It's fine. That does slow down. The Greens, you're fine. And I think even Victorian Socialists at this point, it's fine.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
There's enough people to keep it going. And I think activists lose that because it's not, and the wrong people are like, if I'm not there, everything will fall apart. Yeah. And I myself am keeping Victorian Socialists together.
No,
that's the wrong energy.
It's like we're not on great man theory.
Yeah.
Like that's not what that's
so those people are fucked. Don't listen to them. But I do think there is a genuine risk of people going, I don't want to let anyone else down. And we need to remind those people, you're not. You will let us down if you burn out and we lose someone amazing from the movement. Everything will keep going. Take it in shifts, but take some fucking time off. Because if you're not feeling awake, let alone positive, let alone loved, let alone in a community doing cool community small shit, then there's no reason to do the rest of it. That's what we do this for. I do this because there are political forces not allowing people that I love to have the type of privileged life that I have. I could, in a lot of ways, fucking just take a step back and just dilly-dally. Just enjoy my dog and my yard and some markets and bullshit. But there are people who will not allow friends and family and people I love and strangers I don't know to have that fucking life. And so that's why I do it. But I can't do it every single day for a year. So just trust that there are comrades who will keep the fight going for a long weekend while you just take a small fucking break, reevaluate everything you're doing, reconnect with things that are important to you, and come back rejuvenated. Because it's like coming into an activist space with a cold. Don't come in burnt out and fucking not thinking clearly and not like go heal. Don't bring your fucking existential head cold into the activist space when you can just take a day off, go to the footy and enjoy it. It's fine. The left will still be here if you take a little time off. This is how we build up the parasocial relationships with our listeners, by the way. We love you. Right. Take a bath. Right. Tom will rub your feet.
I'm watching over you. I'm there with you.
Here's an audible neck massage for you. Will you enjoy it?
Bring the Tom Tanaki body pillow that you have into
well, all right. So we've got a merch idea. The self-care Tom Tanaki full body pillow.
I'll buy that.
Thanks, mate. Thank
you. All right,
you.
let's wrap this shit up.
Love you guys.
Love you guys too.
Love you. We should just end the pod eps with just love you. Bye.
Yeah.
If you have a post-election hot take that especially one that you're not seeing anywhere in the media, send it to us. I want to talk about that next week. ALPDOTGOV@proton.me. I want your most unhinged election analysis. I want the shit that you're like, I don't think that's legitimate.
Yeah.
But I've got this vibe on it. I want to read that shit. So send it through to us.
And before we go, let me give you a little sneak peek at one of those. I just sent it in the group chat just before. So someone posted a picture of Albanese and then a quote that's by Mussolini. And has written Anthony Albanese under it, and then posted it to a Labour subreddit, and it went really, really well. People were like, yeah, that's my boy, like that's Albanese fighting for socialism, blah 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 blah. I thought that's funny. So also, if you've got anything like that, I would really like to see that too.
Oh, this is incredible. So it's a black and white picture of Albanese smiling. There's a quote. It's got Anthony Albanese underneath it. For this, I have been and am a socialist. The accusation of inconsistency has no foundation. My conduct has always been straight in the sense of looking at the substance of things and not to the form. I adapted socialism to reality. As the evolution of society belied many of the prophecies of Marx, the true socialism folded from possible to probable.
Mussolini. It's quite funny.
Yes, I mean, they're both pragmatists. So they are. They're adaptive pragmatists. They're very.
It's something that Albanese would say too.
You just say it with a little bit less oomph than.
It's just more wet.
All right, I'm wrapping this shit up. I'm hitting stop.